She was not born a queen. She had no throne, no army, no power. She was an orphan, a young Jewish girl living in exile inside the most powerful empire on earth. Yet in a moment that would change history forever. God placed her in the palace, not by accident, but for a purpose that would require courage, faith, and a decision that could cost her life. Her name was Esther. And this is the story of how God saved an entire nation. The story begins in the days of King Xerxes of Persia, ruler of an enormous empire stretching from India to Ethiopia. His capital city was Susa, a magnificent palace filled with wealth, luxury, and political intrigue. To display his greatness, Xerxes held an enormous feast for his nobles and officials. The celebration lasted 180 days. Gold goblets, royal wine, lavish decorations, everything designed to show the king's power and glory. But during the final days of the feast, something happened that would change the course of history. He ordered his queen Vashti to appear before his drunken guests so they could admire her beauty. But Queen Vashti refused. The king was furious. His advisors warned him, if the queen's defiance spreads, women throughout the empire will no longer respect their husbands. So Xerxes made a drastic decision. Queen Vashti was removed from the throne, and a search began for a new queen. Among the young women brought to the palace was a Jewish orphan named Hadassah, known by her Persian name, Esther. She had been raised by her cousin Mordecai, who cared for her like a daughter. Esther was beautiful, but she carried a quiet strength. Mordecai gave her one important instruction. Do not reveal that you are Jewish. So Esther entered the palace, hiding her identity. After months of preparation, her moment finally came. When Esther stood before King Xerxes, he was captivated. Out of all the women in the empire, the king chose her, and Esther became the new queen of Persia. Meanwhile, Mordecai continued his daily routine at the king's gate. One day, he overheard 2 royal guards plotting to assassinate the king. Without hesitation, Mordecai sent word to Queen Esther. The plot was investigated. The guards were executed, and Mordecai's act of loyalty was recorded in the royal chronicles. But strangely, he received no reward. It seemed forgotten. Soon after, a powerful official named Haman was promoted to the highest position. The king ordered everyone to bow before him. Everyone obeyed, except Mordecai. Mordecai refused, and when Haman learned that Mordecai was Jewish, his anger exploded into hatred. Haman manipulated the king into signing a terrible decree. On a specific day, all Jews throughout the Persian Empire were to be killed. Panic spread. Mourning filled the streets. The Jewish people fasted, prayed, and wept. Their destruction seemed certain. Mordecai sent a message to Queen Esther. He urged her to go before the king and beg for mercy. But Esther was afraid. But Mordecai sent back a message. Who knows? Perhaps you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. Esther realized the moment had come. Then I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, peris. After 3 days of fasting, Esther walked into the inner court. The king saw her standing there. Everyone held their breath. Then the king extended the golden scepter. Her life was spared. Esther invited the king and Haman to a banquet. During the feast, the king asked, "What is your request, Queen Esther?" That night, the king could not sleep, so he ordered the royal chronicles to be read to him, and he heard the story of Mordecai. The king asked, "What reward was given?" The answer came, "Nothing." Suddenly, Haman entered. The king asked him how to honor a man. Haman, thinking the king meant him, described a grand celebration. But the king replied, "Excellent. Do all of that? For Mordecai." At Esther's second banquet, the king asked again, "What is your request?" This time Esther spoke, "Spare my life and spare my people." The king was shocked. Who would dare do such a thing? Esther pointed directly at Haman. This wicked man. The Jewish people were given the right to defend themselves. What was meant for destruction became deliverance. To remember this miracle, they established the festival of Purim. Even though his name is never mentioned, his presence is everywhere. God is still working, placing people, opening doors, reversing situations. And perhaps you are exactly where you are today, for such a time as this. If this story inspired you, write in the comments, for such a time as this, and subscribe to the Christian Home for more.